I think that, being able to make that transition from doing custom work where you kind of do feel like you have handcuffs on, like it's like, create this for me, but put on these handcuffs while you do it. And you can only kind of do it in this, box or whatever. And it's like, that's great. And it can, turn out well, for the client. However, I mean, as a creative, you don't necessarily get to explore and grow in certain ways that I've really found that I've done with templates. Like, I've never been a better web designer than I am now.
Hello, and welcome to The Art of Lost and Found, a podcast that explores the creative relationship between our inner and outer worlds. It's a creative exploration through stories, insights, resources, and tools to help you intentionally design your life and work. I'm your host, Brooke Eston, also known as the Creative Amplifier. I'm part strategist, part designer, part coach, and part artist. And I'm dedicated to helping fellow creatives bridge the gaps between those big dreams and practical realities. Now let's get into it. Today on the Art of Lost and Found podcast, we sit down with Melissa Lunt, the founder of Superhero Designs. Our conversation is wide-ranging as we explore Melissa's early relationship to her creativity and how she used it as a tool to help her express herself, especially as a teenager struggling with clinical depression. After being bullied in school, she transferred to an art high school where she was able to fully step into her creative identity and eventually become the successful, elevated designer that she is today. Now, Melissa uses her decade-plus experience in design to create bold brands, websites, and marketing assets for ambitious women who want consistent income while also enjoying a life of freedom. Her clients have been featured in publications ranging from Inc. to Glamour to even CNN, just to name a few. Now let's welcome Melissa to the podcast. So today I am thrilled to welcome Melissa Lunt to the Art of Lost and Found podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Brooke. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for asking me.
Yeah, such a pleasure. So I invited you in particular onto the podcast because I have been a total creeper of your work for like at least 2 or 3 years, potentially as many as 4. And way back in the day,
wow.
I was struggling to do my own brand identity. And I'm sure we can speak to that because it's, what do they say? The cobbler's kids have no shoes or something. It's like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Your own. Yeah. So I was shopping around on Etsy, looking for inspiration, seeing if there could be something that could give me a boost. And I saw hundreds, potentially even thousands of templates. And all the ones that I clicked on were from Superhero Designs. Like I went through my tabs. I'm like, oh, this is all the same person. Okay. I'm going to her stuff, her store, her website. And I bought one of your templates and it made my life so much easier. And I just was really drawn to your style. It felt somewhat familiar, but also really fresh and novel and different. And that blend is a really challenging blend to get to. So having followed you for all of these years passively in the background, we connected when I became an affiliate to help sell your templates. And I have witnessed your just consistent leveling up of your work, of your brand, of your vibe, of your Instagram content. Like everything just seems to be a really fast-paced, graceful evolution. And I know enough about the creative process that regardless of how that looks on the outside, it's usually a different story from the vantage point of the person who's doing it. So I wanted to invite you on today to explore a little bit of your story and your journey and just connect with you a little bit more.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for such a great intro. You make me feel so good and I'm so humbled to hear that you've been following me for so long. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of work, and there are ups and downs for sure. It's definitely a journey. And then, yeah, I mean, there's just, like you said, it looks easy on the outside, but there is so much that goes into it. And then being an artist too, like it's so personal, and it's like your passion, and it's what you love to do as well. You kind of have to integrate that, and try to find some sort of balance, and then also add in the business aspect. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on whenever it comes to having a creative business, definitely.
Yeah. So before we get too deep into the creative business piece of it, I'd love to just explore your relationship with your creativity in more of a personal capacity. So can you share a little bit about when you were younger, in your childhood, before all of the shoulds and fears and insecurities started entering the picture?
I knew that I always wanted to be an artist. I've always loved to paint and draw and color and, all the things that creative kids like to do. And then whenever I became a teenager, I struggled with depression. And so creativity was a huge outlet for me. So I was always, drawing, painting, listening to like Nine Inch Nails, and just like there was like art all over my wall. I know I just aged to myself.
It's all good. So, we would have been friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm absolutely sure of that. So anyway, it really helped me. I think just have some sort of outlet for that. I don't know if any listeners have had chemical depression, but mine was from hormones and being a teenager and things like that, and it was hard to deal with. And so creativity was a good outlet for me. And in junior high, actually, I was bullied in school. I know a lot of people in junior high were bullied. It's like a bully playground in junior high. I don't know, but it was hard for me too. And then also dealing with depression. And I remember I did have this one teacher, Mr. Nisi, and right before high school. So I think that was eighth grade, something like that. And he always encouraged me, and he was a kind soul that really touched me and got me to move forward, and knew that that was what I wanted to do. And lucky for me, where I lived, there was an art magnet high school that I could apply to. And so that is what I ended up doing. And I would say that was like the beginning of my creative life, I guess, or when I started to identify myself as, what, I'm a creative, I'm an artist, this is who I am. So I would say that's where that all began.
Yeah. So from there, how did you start to really own your relationship with your creativity and identify as a creative? Like, let's unpack that a little bit more, because I think once you had that idea in your mind, that it's not just something you do, right? Because there's a difference between I make art, right? It as a verb versus it as a noun, which is I am an artist or I am a creative. And in my experience, talking with a lot of people, there is a really strong resistance to claiming that title. Like it's somehow you have to be a certain way if you are an artist or a creative. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you came to relate to that. In those years when you were still in that angsty sort of time period.
I think being surrounded by artists and then having all of my teachers, be artists and art teachers, it made me feel a lot more comfortable to just be able to identify as an artist. And I think too, being a teenager, I think you need to put on an identity hat. You need to be able to say, I'm this person. This is my ego. I need this to kind of feel comfortable in who I am. Because as a teenager, it's like you said, it's really hard to feel comfortable in who you are. So I think just going to that art high school really helped me have that identity. And then I could kind of wear that badge, moving forward, like, this is who I am. And then I think that also gives you a sort of confidence too, in moving forward with any avenue if you feel like you have some identity as well. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start learning or getting involved in the business piece of being a creative?
Yeah. So after high school, I took a year off and traveled with my mom. She was actually a traveling nurse. So I got to live in Hawaii and San Jose. I went to school in Florida at the time. So it was pretty cool to get to travel around. But yeah, so during that year, I was a waitress and, trying to make ends meet. I took the year off. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to school. And then I realized I did not want to be a waitress forever. I did not want to be broke. I would need to go to college, especially back. I mean, this was in 2002. I think I realized, or 2000. I graduated high school in 99. So in that time period, if you did not go to college, you did not do anything good with your career. Like it was either you're a success or you're a fail. And it was college or no college. So I started out going to a community college for fine art and quickly realized that that wasn't going to make me any money. I'm, doing these large pastels of like florals and things. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't have a job. So what I did after that was I got to moved to San Diego and then went to the Art Institute of San Diego for graphic design. And I only chose graphic design because I thought, well, it's artistic and I can make money at it. That's what I thought. So that's why I chose it. I mean, I had never seen a Macintosh computer before or anything. And yeah, basically like the first 6 months I wanted to completely quit because Photoshop was just killing me. But yeah, I know. It's like so funny to look back at now because it's like so easy. But yeah, it was super hard. And then also I was in that time frame of like, you didn't really grow up using a computer. At least I didn't. I had, some old school computer that we would like type stuff on at home. But I mean,
family used.
Yeah, it's so different today. Like kids grow up using computers. So I, had to learn how to use a computer. And again, a Macintosh was like a foreign object, like an alien, like spaceship.
For all you young kids out there, she's talking about a Mac, an Apple.
Yeah, a Macintosh. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rebranded.
Yeah. Yeah. I could have been the first iMac. I'm not sure, but it was big and crazy looking to me. So
yeah.
I guess that would be like the first time I realized I needed to use creativity for business. And so that's why I chose going to that school. And then that kind of led me into, my career and then branching out on my own and, beyond. So.
Yeah. And how was that transition from art for artistry and for self-expression and in your case, even for therapeutic benefits to help with the depression and just, building your identity, finding your tribe when you're at that age, and then transitioning into a different layer of the relationship with your creativity, where all of a sudden it became a tool where money entered the picture.
Yeah. So in school, I didn't exactly feel that way quite yet because you're still kind of picking your projects and doing whatever you want. I mean, even though there's like fake clients that you're designing for, I mean, it's really what you would want to design, right? So I didn't really experience that until I got hired by a client. And then you have to do exactly what they want. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm an artist. I do art. What are you talking about? Why would I do what you wanted me to do?
Yeah.
So I think that transition is difficult to make. And then also coming out with an end product that isn't to your liking or your satisfaction. I mean, okay, it's a good, I'm not saying it's a crap product. I'm just saying it's not your vision or what you would have created. And then handing that off, it's like you have to let go of that identity and that emotional attachment, I think, to your art. It definitely, there's a huge difference between, like you said, painting for therapeutic, something you want, and then doing it for a business. It's a client's work, essentially, and you're just handing it off. And you have to detach and say, you know what, orange looks hideous on that, but hey, that's what they wanted.
Yeah, that I've definitely found that to be a challenge also. And I would take work because I have background in graphic design also, and there's a number. Yeah. Yeah. So I was buying your templates to help overcome some of the struggle that I would go through in doing pure custom work when there wasn't that alignment with the client. But yeah, it's really challenging because I mean, at this point in my process, if somebody in a discovery, if I could feel that they basically just want to rent my skills rather than my strategic ability, I recommend that they hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork. And I actually have this in my application. Like, do you have a vision that you just want executed? Or are you looking for creative guidance? Or are you looking for a hybrid? And I ask them.
Yeah.
So it gives me an opportunity to shift to really being able to work with and serve the people that I can create the most value for. Because that feeling, what you're describing, I always felt like hamstrung by that of like, no, let me go. Like I can make it better. Okay, we could do it your way. Also, I might not put my name at the bottom of this website. Like it's there's a struggle there, and I find that when money enters the picture, the energy of the creative work really changes. And for a number of people that I've spoken to that have shifted from doing just direct client work, a lot of custom work, to then selling products that support people in being able to do their own thing, right? Like online courses or templates or, some type of guides or even consulting. It's a very different shift that happens in the business. So I would invite you to share a little bit about your experience of going from that like almost hamstrung or really constrained and restricted way of working with people, like as something for hire versus where you're at now, which seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're really a creative facilitator. Like you're helping people translate their ideas and their intentions into something that is visually really beautiful and dynamic and helps them to see themselves at the next level. So can you share a little bit about that, that evolving relationship to your professional creative work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I still do take on custom jobs, but I would say that the majority of my work is now creating templates, which I absolutely love because I can do, like you said, include whatever I want.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have, thank you so much. Yeah, no, I mean, I do have, the end user in mind that I'm thinking, but like I have let's just say avatar of, the person that's going to buy this template. And I think that, being able to make that transition from doing custom work where you kind of do feel like you have handcuffs on, like it's like create this for me, but put on these handcuffs while you do it. And you can only kind of do it in this, box or whatever. And it's like, that's great. And it can, turn out well, for the client. However, I mean, as a creative, you don't necessarily get to explore and grow in certain ways that I've really found that I've done with templates. Like I've never been a better web designer than I am now, just by making these different templates, because you have to do like all these different scenarios and layouts and different, I do all kinds of different styles. It's just made me so much better. And it feels like I just love making them. I mean, I do love working with clients, but I also feel like now I work better with clients now that I do have a template shop because they see those.
Yeah.
And then you're right. It's like they're like, oh, I can be this great, or this could be my vision. And then it's almost like working like backwards. So like they find me because they love a template.
Yeah.
And then they hire me and they're like, oh, I love, the Kristen Boss template or whatever, which is really popular. People love that one. And then they can envision it. And then they're like, oh, she's the designer for me because she can design something like this. Whereas whenever all I had to show was client work, all they're seeing is work I did with handcuffs on. So it's like, well, it's not that great. Or at least it's not as great as it could be, right? Yeah. So it's really nice to be able to kind of do it in reverse in that way now. And I feel like I'm attracting the type of clients that I want to design for, because these are the designs that I want to do. And so, they're just attracted to that, and then they reach out, and it works out perfectly now. So,
yeah. And how did you then get to amplify that by building your affiliate program? I mean, that's like next level in terms of your ability to scale.
Yeah. So the affiliate program was just kind of a no-brainer for me. It just seemed like the obvious next step. Like, well, how do I reach more people? I'm one person. I have, do XYZ for marketing. You need people to reach out to other people, I mean, it's been really great. And, it's just a slowly growing process. And we're like a snowball effect, as one person reaches another person, and then another person signs up, and then more links and more, purchases. And I was a little aggressive with the coupons for affiliates, because I'm like, well, how do we, make these conversions? What's going to make it worth it for somebody to want to do this?
Yeah.
And since it's a digital product, I mean, once it's done, it's essentially all profit besides marketing. So I did the 20% for their followers, and then 10% for the affiliate, which I thought was reasonable, and also a good chunk for everybody involved. So I think it's just worked out really well.
Yeah. And you were flexible with me as well, because I actually joined a few different affiliate programs all around the same time. And I was new. I didn't really know what I was
remember.
doing.
I remember Tonic, the amazing Tonic. Yes, they're so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I that was part of what the familiarity piece of your work felt like. Like, it had that same clean, crisp, very design focus, right? They're not stripped websites. Like, they're mostly asymmetrical, and they have movement, but there's a lot of negative space and openness, and it has this level of sophistication and elegance. And that I had only seen from Tonic. So when I saw your stuff, which was priced at a fraction of Tonic's, I was like, who is this woman? Because it didn't look like Tonic's. Like, I wouldn't have confused it for a Tonic design. But
good. I'm glad you say that.
Yeah, no. It had a distinct, unique style, and it still does. All of your templates and Tonics are incredible, but they're priced in the thousands, and yours are much more affordable and in the hundreds. Yeah, but there was something about the way that you were able to like pull all these different ingredients together that really spoke to me. And like I said, when I was trying to design my own brand identity as a visual designer, it's really hard. Like, I couldn't do it. I would just kept redesigning and looping, and I wasn't really making much progress. I wasn't spiraling up and getting better. I was just kind of like moving, but in a disoriented way. So when I saw yours, and particularly when I saw the Jennifer Boss one, I was like, that's, in a way, like, that's who I want to be. That's how I was inspired, but I don't know if you can say this. I felt like I was aspired. Like, it just like kicked into me of that's how I want to present myself. Like, I could see myself in that identity, but I can build that identity from where I'm at now to there. Like, I've already tried. If I could have, I would have.
Yeah.
How much is this template? And then I got it. And then that's where the creative expression that wanted to come out could, but I had scaffolding. I had a structure. It's so cool to see how versatile they are, because I think a lot of people have the assumption about templates is that it's going to feel cookie cutter. But when you actually get them and you can change the font and change the images and change the color and move things around, like, it transforms in a way that is so dynamic and expansive that I could make 20 different websites from that same template and them not feel at all like they came from the same base structure. So what has been, from your perspective, the most exciting and coolest and like kind of big, warm, like, this is awesome kind of feelings doing the work that you're doing? And then also, what are some of the hard, sticky challenges that kind of like bring you back down?
Let me think. I mean, it's super exciting for me to see what other people create using the website templates. And they don't reach out. They're like, I don't get these emails and they're like, oh yeah, and here's my website, check it out. I literally have to cyber stalk these people. So I'm like, okay, who bought on Etsy? Who bought on my website? I'm like, which one did they buy? And I'm like trying to Google their name, where they live. That literally, I mean, it's like I'm a stalker. Like, could you just send me your URL already? It's crazy. I can say 30% I can't even find. I don't even know where they are in the world. And then the other ones, I check out, and it's like a surprise. It's like opening a present, because you make something, you pour your heart into it, you make it how you think it should be, right? Beautiful, this, that, the other. And then you see what other people do with it. And it's like, oh, wow, I would have never thought to, make it into this kind of, company, or like use that font with that or whatever. So I really do like seeing what other people create. I say that's like the high point. Let me think of low points. So a low point would be like being copied and then like seeing like your copy online, So that's always tough, because it's just like, oh, like they totally ripped me off, man, And sometimes you can do something about it, and then sometimes you just can't, and you just have to suck it up and just like try not to look. So I mean that I would say like that's a low point of the business.
I wanted to turn a little bit to more of the client-facing work that you're doing where you're more involved and hands-on. Because when you are selling a digital product, a lot of times there is that gap. Especially if you're doing volume and you don't necessarily have a process to then like get feedback, or they come back for something else or whatever. But when you work with your clients and you're helping them in a more hands-on way move through that transformation, what is that process or experience like in terms of pulling out their ideas and their sources of inspiration and how they see themselves, but then doing the part that a creative strategist does, not the client, which is turning all of that into a cohesive brand and a clear, unified vision, instead of, maybe the initial Pinterest board that you get that's all over the place. Or like, what is that process of refinement been like for you?
Yeah, you basically have to have a filter, right? So like people can say one thing, but you have to realize that maybe that's not what they really mean, or maybe that doesn't matter as much as they think that matters, or what they want isn't actually something that's going to work. So it's kind of like you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. You just kind of smile and nod like, okay. And then kind of deliver them like, kind of take bits and pieces of what they want and then turn it into something that they need, but will also love. So it's kind of like a magical recipe that I think can develop from experience of just working with people and understanding, what's going to work, and then what, will also make them happy.
Yeah.
Essentially. So yeah, I mean, and also I think them understanding what their business is and who their business is for is really important. So a lot of times, especially if they're creative as well, they don't necessarily know who their business is for, like what problem they're trying to solve or what message they're trying to communicate. They don't think about those things. They think, okay, I love photography, I'm going to be a photographer. And like, that's it. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to dig a little deeper. It's like, well, who are you photographing for? And then like, what needs do these people have? Like, what makes the person that you're selling to tick? Like what drives them and what do they want to see? Because that's essentially what you need to be putting out, not necessarily like what's coming personally from you. You know what I mean? So like, there's like that disconnect too. And so, when clients develop a Pinterest board, before going through the process, I always want to see it. I always want to check it out. And then if they are, pretty savvy and know what the heck they're doing, then I could also like add to it or whatever. But I mean, a lot of times it's like completely irrelevant, stuff on their board or whatever. So you just kind of have to like, not worry about those items and then just kind of add items that actually do work as far as like direction goes. So I'd say just overall, just take it all with a grain of salt and then do what needs to be done.
Yeah. I think that's part of the job of the professional, right? They're hiring you not to just do, hey, change this look, make this green instead of orange.
Yeah.
When somebody asks me to do that, I'm like, go to Fiverr. Like so much cheaper, so much faster. So like, don't pay my rates for something like that. Like I'm more valuable in this sort of translation. But it's interesting, like the way that you're describing it of, there's a lot that's there, but it's your job to distill and communicate and translate the essence of what is being communicated rather than the details of what's being said. Feels very much like an act of translation. I think what you said about having experience and being able to know what is the most important thing to translate, like identifying and zeroing in, like what is that feeling? What is that vibe? What is that essence that they're trying to communicate so that I can take that and do my job, which is to make that visual and cohesive and something that they see and they just gasp and go, oh, really? That's mine? That's me? Like, I can't wait to step into that. And that excited leveling up that comes from that process.
Yeah, definitely. And, I realize I do also love hearing whenever I send over design concepts and a client gets back and they're just like, oh my God, I love it. This is so me. I actually just got that the other day. And I was like, because, you still get nervous every time you send out, especially like the initial design concepts. You're like, I don't know if they're going to like it. Was this the right way? Just like tweaking it forever, And then you still get that. And so like getting that like feedback, I think all creatives need. We need that positive reinforcement and just be like, I love it. It's amazing. You did a great job. And then like as creatives, you're just like, oh, thank God.
I would love for us to shift a little bit more into the same theme, but in the context of your own life. Because the work that I do is very much at the intersection of the business, creative, professional world, right? The brands, the websites, the courses, the like tangible assets that other people can interact with. But then on the other side, and I think part of what is unique about the work that I do is it really is that blend, that intersection of life design, of how do you want to spend your time? What emotions do you actually want to feel? What does your day or your ideal week even look like? Like, do you have a North Star that you're moving towards, or are you just like doing the next thing and being opportunistic rather than really intentional and strategic? And part of the reason that I want to speak with you specifically about this is because of your pivot from doing so much of the client work to then doing, more intentional, aligned, ideal client work instead of just like what I can get when I'm first starting out to moving into creating products that allow you to, I would imagine, scale and liberate your time. So can you talk a little bit about your intention behind that and what your kind of life or lifestyle design process has been?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that time is, really the most important asset that you have. It's the most value. It's worth the most to me. It's my time, right? How much time do I have to do what I want to do, whatever that would be. And I love the fact that I can be completely mobile. You're not tied down to anywhere. It's a very free feeling. And you're absolutely right. Like moving into product sales has given me so much more time. And I just feel I feel like there's been a weight that's been lifted off of my shoulders, just like, I'm free. I'm not, chained to like client responses and like making sure that I have meet all these deadlines all the time. And, it's just it's kind of like a burden, that you can just like let go of. Making that decision, I think when I first started my business by myself in 2014, and I was absolutely opportunistic. Totally. That was the perfect word, hit the nail on the head. It was like, how can I make money? Who's going to pay me? I need to pay the rent. I need to, eat for the week, like, how do I get that money? It didn't even matter. It was like this, that, the other, fine. I'll make your pineapple logo. Okay. But I think that that's the evolution of any business. You do what you can, at least as an entrepreneur, as far as I'm concerned, you do what you can to survive. And then once you kind of, build that up a little bit and you're not like struggling every day, and then you're like, okay, I have a minute to breathe. What can I do to kind of make this better or, grow or make this look more like what I want my life to look like? So I think it was, just a natural progression for me once, my service business was built up to a point where it was comfortable. Then it was like, well, what next? So then became the templates. And once I started selling the templates, I'm like, holy crap, like you can make a lot of money online selling templates, and all you have to do is just do the work and then you're done, do it once and then sell it a million times. And I'm like, this is great. So, that sold me, doing that. And I mean, I just love the freedom that it's given me. So yeah.
So when you decided to move into this space, originally it was from this need to make money and to have your independence and all of that. And then it seems like there was some point where things shifted for you, where you started to narrow in more on who you wanted to serve and, more importantly, who you could help transform or who you could help really move through a significant process. And you say that, you say specifically that it has become your soul's mission to help creatives ensure that their branding is spot on and irresistible. So it speaks to the right people and also gives them the same kind of freedom that you've been able to get by helping them grow their income. So can you speak a little bit about that process of how you went from that opportunistic, yeah, sure, pineapple logo, whatever, like add it to the queue, let's go, to more strategic and intentional and, soul mission is a really bold statement to make. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, spark inside you that's helping to drive a lot of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So my life has been a little bit turbulent, I would say, since 2014. And I think whenever your life becomes hard, you do a lot of soul searching. So I became more spiritual and just kind of realized that I wanted to do something that gave my life purpose. And I also felt like I was helping other people. I think that's why we're here on this earth. I mean, not to take a total spin, but so I was like, well, how can I do that? I'm like, I do branding and graphic design. Like, how is that really going to impact anything and make what I do even matter? When I'm on my deathbed, looking back, I want to feel like I've, done things that actually matter. So I think that's the driving force for me, is that I wanted to affect other people in a positive way and then give them positive energy to move forward in their lives. And I think that this is a great way to do it. So I mean, you could say it's my soul mission, or at least I say it is my soul mission to do that. So that's the driving force behind that. And then going on the other side, the person like you buying, a website template, which doesn't seem like it would really make a difference, but it can give somebody confidence and also freedom to be an entrepreneur, which releases them from the chains of, corporate America, whatever, or their own chains in their mind. And then they can feel this free feeling and just be a more free human being and, make money on their own and fulfill their life's purpose, as well, easier, I think, than, going on the 9-to-5 grind. how can you do anything besides just driving in traffic and hating your life every day? You know, to me, I mean, that's what I think of the 9 to 5 anyway. So it's really nice to be able to do that. And then if I think about those things, then it makes me feel like what I'm doing it's just a lot more fulfilling for me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question fully, but that's what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take it even deeper in terms of, with your newfound freedom and your ability to just reclaim your time in that way and make more intentional choices about what you do with it. Because I definitely have had those moments where I'm like trying to get shit pixel perfect. And I'm like, God, this is so time consuming and it's so late and I haven't eaten. And like, I've sacrificed so much for what? Like, does this even matter?
Yeah.
So in your pivot and your freeing up and your liberation of your time and looking at that and driving that from like a spiritual place in terms of thinking about the end of your life, thinking about the legacy that you want to leave and the impact that you want your life to have created. How do you think about using your time now? Like, what do you fill that space with?
Yeah. So I do a lot of getting outside. I mean, now that I live in the suburbs of Chicago, it's a little bit trickier with the weather. However, I mean, I love riding my bike and hiking and spending time with my boyfriend and my dog. I just keep trying to remember and believe and think and remind myself to affect other people in positive ways and just have a lasting positive effect on them. And so each interaction I think you have with individuals is really important to give them a positive, energy and a positive vibe. So I think just focusing on that is good.
I can really relate to what you said in terms of when you have that time back, what do you want to do with it? It's like, be in your body, be in your, like, in that soul's energy so you can radiate in a way that you can only do when you're well rested and you're balanced. Otherwise, it's like, I feel like I have a negative charge walking around when I'm irritable from overdoing it versus, back from vacation.
I think just raising your vibe by not being super stressed out in front of a computer is just, I mean, even if you're not necessarily like doing anything specific, like you said, it's like your whole energy changes and everything is just so much happier. And then, you're radiating out that positive energy that, makes you attract more positive energy. And then it's like your life just gets better. What can I say?
Yeah. Yeah. So where are you going from here? What's next for you?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know right now.
And how do you feel about that? I mean, some people, there is this like energy of what's next? Like you always have to do bigger. You always have to do more. It always has to be extra. But I found that the happiest people are the people who are content with where they are. So in terms of you being like, I don't have a big grand master plan that I'm working on at this particular moment, like how does that feel for you? How does that settle with you?
I think that after becoming an entrepreneur, I think it's really helped me like not know what the heck is going on or what's coming or what to expect. Because I mean, let's face it, you can plan all day long and then something comes and it just completely changes your perspective. And you're like, well, I wasted all that time planning that because now I'm going over here. So, well, I think it's good to have like, goals and obviously like, want to grow and things like that. But I mean, as far as like where I see myself in 10 years, I have no idea. I do want to sell more templates and build up that business more and grow it. But yeah, I mean, as far as what's after that, I mean, I guess I'll just be excited when I see it because I don't know what it's going to be.
I like that. That's a very optimistic, open-hearted kind of position to take.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So when you look back on your journey, is there any perhaps lower points or harder moments that if you could speak to yourself from your position right now, looking back at that, I don't know, maybe 2014 Melissa or 2016 Melissa, or, some further point that you were at where things felt really hard and scary and uncertain? Because the energy that you have right now is like, there's uncertainty, but there's excitement. And I think all of us have been in a place where we have uncertainty and there's fear and terror. And especially, what you shared earlier about the depression and that type of struggle. If you could tune into yourself in one of those more difficult moments, what would you say to yourself from your vantage point now?
I would say, I love you. And I would say, take a deep breath. Everything's okay. Have faith and choose love. That's it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Because no matter what situation, like you said, it's like you can be fearful. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I never know what's going to happen. I mean, none of us really do. We just believe that we do. It's like a pretend game that we play with ourselves. It's real fun. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, you know what? I'm not driving the bus. I'm just sitting in the back and some stone hippies are driving it, and that's cool. But I got a comfortable seat and I'm going to be happy, goddammit.
Or I take a nap later, don't worry about me. I'm fine.
Exactly. You got snacks. It's fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, I appreciate that perspective because that feels very timeless. And no matter what moment you're in, to be able to reconnect with that essence, right? It's not a detailed this dark night of the soul moment in 2015 when I was going through this or that. It is more of a general kind of essence of how to move forward rather than getting stuck in a narrative about any particular situation that with time just fades anyway.
Exactly. Because you're going to reach hard times. They're going to come again for me, it could be tomorrow. I don't know, and I think it's how you handle those situations, like your attitude and how you choose to respond. Obviously that's the most important thing because what's coming is not important. It's your response to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. Well, great.
Yeah.
So for people who are interested in buying these templates that we're just talking up so much, and I totally recommend. And for people who want to follow along your journey and your continued evolution, where is the best place to connect with you?
That's great. So you can buy my website templates. They're all for Show It, which is an amazing platform on superherodesign.co, not com. So superherodesign.co. And you can just shop website templates there. And what your coupon code is, what, Brooke?
Creative Amplifier.
Creative Amplifier is the coupon code for 20% off. So be sure to use that. And it applies to all the products in the store. So go for that. And that's it.
I will link to it in the show notes as well. And I'll throw your Instagram in there too, because you always have nice,
I forgot about Instagram.
Across what I've seen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, The Art of Lost and Found.
Thank you so much, Brooke. I really appreciate it. And it was awesome being on your podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Art of Lost and Found podcast. I hope that you are feeling inspired and empowered to go forth and explore your curiosity and creativity. As always, if you want any more information about any of our guests or the show notes or anything we discussed on today's episode, you can head over to www.brookeeston.com/podcast. Thank you so much and looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.